Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Michael Ayala. We're bringing you today's testimony in the murder retrial for Karen Reed. Judson Welcher, a biomechanical engineer who reconstructed the alleged collision that led to John O'Keefe's death, returned to the stand, and he could be the prosecution's final witness. Now, if he is, the Commonwealth's case in chief would be significantly shorter than in the first trial. Welcher is the state's 38th witness. The first time around, they called over 60 witnesses. I believe it was 68. Now, Welcher has thus far laid out how he believes Reed's Lexus SUV could have hit John O'Keefe and presented a pretty compelling visual for the jury depicting how it may have happened. When paired with evidence presented earlier, concluding that microscopic pieces of taillight were found on the hoodie worn by O'Keefe that night, the prosecution's case comes squarely into view. But of course, the defense claims that Reed never hit O'Keefe with her SUV, and instead his injuries were inflicted inside the home of fellow officer Brian Albert. They say O'Keefe's body was then dumped on the lawn, and now Reed is being framed for his death as part of a police cover-up. Now, as court ended yesterday, the attorneys were arguing over just how far Judson Welcher could go and phrase his conclusions regarding the collision and what may have happened. Judge Beverly Cannoni took the arguments under advisement, and this morning she delivered her ruling. Let's take a listen.
Dr. Welcher can testify that the data he downloaded and analyzed and the damage to the Lexus is consistent with Ms. Reed's vehicle being in a collision on January 29th at 12:32 a.m. because he's a qualified expert and his opinion is based on reliable methodology appropriately applied. In addition, Dr. Welcher can testify that Mr. O'Keefe's injuries are consistent with his having been struck by a Lexus that is physically identical to Ms. Reed's Lexus, because this opinion is based upon, among other things, his experimental work that came into evidence without objection as to scientific methodology and application. However, he may not testify that Ms. Reed's Lexus collided with Mr. O'Keefe because that conclusion is not based on the application of reliable scientific methodology.
And so that's exactly what Welcher testified to on direct. We've been watching most of his cross for today. I want to take you back into the courtroom now, and the defense is actually wrapping up their cross-examination. In real time, the court has ended for the day, but we're just getting caught up, so let's go back in.
So the answer is, what you cited, number 3, you did not use a force analysis, correct?
So force was applied to my arm in the paint test. I didn't do an F equals MA force analysis.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So now let's go to the horizontal movement we were talking about with regard to the car. And you can agree or disagree.
Sorry, the picture's done.
I'm sorry, we'll take that down. Do you agree or disagree that given a horizontal movement of the car, vertical lacerations would be an inconsistent injury pattern?
So horizontal motion generally will cause a horizontal laceration. You can get what are called stellate, which are a blunt force, and it causes a splitting of the skin as well. But generally, when the vehicle is clipping or running horizontal across it, it will generally cause horizontal lacerations. But when you have a fractured taillight, you can get pieces going off in other directions. So it's not necessarily going to be perfectly horizontal.
So my question is, not with clipping, you keep inserting clipping into my question. My question is this. If you're given a horizontal movement of the car, do you agree that it's more likely than not that vertical lacerations would be an inconsistent jury pattern?
I'm trying to help you, but you got to give me more. So, like, is it a clipping contact or is it not a clipping contact? Is it a direct in the center of the car impact?
Okay, are there only 2 variables you need to answer the question?
But this is a good start.
All right, so let me do it this way. You can't answer the question on a general basis of whether there's horizontal movement of a car, whether vertical lacerations would be an inconsistent injury pattern. You can't answer that question without more information. Is that your answer?
So generally, again, horizontal motion should cause horizontal lacerations, but again, it depends on what's being hit.
Okay.
So for example, if I have something that bends as a result of the impact, it could bend up and create a vertical laceration.
So you would agree, based upon what you said, that generally horizontal movement of a car would be expected to cause horizontal lacerations.
Generally,
okay.
Yes.
Now, during your blue paint test, the blue paint was featured more predominantly on your upper arm than your forearm. Is that correct?
I think it depends on the tests.
Do you want, we bring up a slide? Will that
I'd
help
love
you?
to bring up a slide.
We're going to be running the thing, so we'll just bring one up and you tell me whether this slide works for you, sir.
Do you want me to tell you the slide I want?
If we could take a shot at it first, and then we may ask you for it. But I think we've got a slide for you. And what number?
Dr. Welcher, 111.
111 is on the screen, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Is the blue paint more predominantly on your upper arm than your forearm? Is there more blue paint on your upper arm than your forearm?
Probably. This is the one where I actually walked sideways into the back of the car. The one where the car's moving is probably a little better representation.
Sir, I'm just asking you a question about this slide. If you could just focus on this slide here, and if you can't answer it, so be it.
I just answered it.
Is the blue paint featured more predominantly on your upper arm than your forearm?
It sort of looks like it. I didn't actually measure the total area of it.
Alrighty. So on direct, you stated that in order for the injuries on Mr. O'Keefe's forearm to have been caused by an impact with the taillight, his arm would have needed to be held outstretched as you did in your demonstration, correct?
You would need some degree of outstretch, yes.
Yes. So isn't that an example of confirmation bias?
No, that's matching the contact pattern to the injuries.
But don't you have to select among other choices this outstretching of the arm? You had to make that selection from among others, correct?
So that was matching the physical evidence on his arm to the physical evidence on the car, and then running a test to see if dynamically those matched up. So it's, I didn't have it hit the exhaust pipe, for example, because there was no assertion it hit the exhaust pipe. There was no damage to the exhaust pipe. So it was based upon the evidence, and the testing was done to test, to use your vernacular, the hypothesis that that's where it came from.
Sir, have I ever asked you anything about a tailpipe in any of my questions today?
Yes.
I have not. I've never asked.
Yes, you have. You asked me about the totality of the rear of the Lexus, which includes the tailpipe.
All right. I am not going to be asking any questions that involve the taillight in any fashion. So what I'd like to do is to go back to the question that I'm asking, which is, did you consider, as part of the scientific method, in terms of more than one hypothesis, did you consider in your analysis any other orientation of Mr. O'Keefe other than the one you selected for your paint test?
Yes.
And where is that consideration of other hypotheses stated in any report?
It's not. I was just looking at the damage that was up on the sheet metal.
Okay. So, are you saying that you considered other orientations of Mr. O'Keefe relative to the vehicle as part of your analysis?
In terms of where exactly the hand would be, some slight different angles in the forearm, which is from the elbow to the hand. I did consider that, but all the physical testing is done with the hand hitting the approximate center of the taillight.
Do you have any notes that you took for these alternative orientations?
No, I think I just included photographs of that damage.
Do you have any proof at all that you considered those other orientations? Anything in writing?
No, I don't believe so.
All right. Did you consider any other locations of Mr. O'Keefe under your theory relative to the back of the SUV?
Sure. In the beginning of this, I started about, hey, it's all over. It could be anywhere on the back of it. Then whittled it down based upon the evidence, started eliminating various hypotheses based upon the evidence, and came to this conclusion, eliminating hypotheses based upon the taillight fragments near his body, the lacerations, his height, the height of the taillight in the Lexus. So it was an iterative process.
Did you mention any of these supposed hypotheses in your direct testimony?
No, because I was able to reject them. I didn't come in here to tell these people what didn't happen. I came in here to tell them what I believe happened.
Would you agree, sir, that the scientific method earlier has the scientists identify various hypotheses, go with the data that supports it, but you show your math as to why you're rejecting hypotheses. As you said, you rejected them. I'm asking for proof that you considered other hypotheses. Do you have anything in writing, any notes at all, any videos, any tests that you did, documentation of other hypotheses other than picking this one? Do you have any documentation of that?
So I did a bunch of tests with the Lexus. I did backing tests. I looked at how the rear system worked to see if it would autonomously brake. I confirmed it did not, so I eliminated that as a hypothesis. I tested the steering. I tested the transmission, what 1, 2 represented. So I did a whole bunch of tests on the vehicle.
I understand you say you did a bunch of tests on the vehicle. My question is, did you ever take the vehicle and position yourself or anybody else in various locations to determine whether or not your hypotheses could be properly rejected? Do you have any documentation that you did that?
I mean, I did do 1 static and 2 dynamic tests in very similar positions, though. So I did a total of 3 tests relative to the arm.
Where is the documentation for that, sir?
It's in the file. I gave it to you. Some of the slides are some of it.
Okay.
All right, so Mr. Alessi, I think if we're going to...
I am, and I'm going to move on, Your Honor.
So...
Okay, Mr. Alessi, hold on. We're going to do that for you.
Can I ask, I just have one other area, Your Honor. I can do it in short order if I could,
Okay.
please.
I wasn't finished my...
Go ahead, finish your answer.
So slides 109, 110, 111, actually through, I guess, 121 deal with the testing of the hypotheses.
We'll come back to this at another time, Dr. Welcher. So what I want to do is to finish up on this point. So is it your testimony that no part of what you did in selecting this area, no part of it is confirmation bias? You say there's no confirmation bias at all in what you did. Is that your testimony?
That's certainly my goal. I try and eliminate all confirmational bias. I didn't start out at this particular location. This is where the physical evidence led me to. So I would say the conclusions are supported by the science.
My question is, did you?
Confirmation bias or just following the data? That's the big question for this jury. Let's step aside here for a quick break. When we come back, we'll have more testimony from the Karen Reed murder retrial. Plus, we're going to have a live update from New York with all the latest from the sex trafficking trial for Sean Diddy Combs. All that and more coming up next. Keep it here on CourtTv.
Mr. Wolk, with Your Honor's permission, if we could pull up the January 30th, 2025 PowerPoint of Dr. Welcher in slide 36. You see that, Dr. Welcher? Do you recall that from your January 30th, 2025 PowerPoint?
I thought I had replaced the video on the left-hand side by the time I produced it.
Sir, I got to go through this quickly. That image is a drone image on the left, correct?
Oh, correct.
And you had that in your original report, but you removed it in subsequent reports, correct?
Correct.
Where did you get that drone image from?
It was in the file.
Wasn't it in the CARS report of Trooper Paul?
I believe it was.
So you took that drone image from the CARS report of Trooper Paul, correct?
Correct.
Let's, if we could, Mr. Woke, go to diagram 1. Do we have that electronically of Trooper Paul's report? Do you recognize that as diagram 1 from Trooper Paul's report?
Yes.
So, and that's the diagram that you took that image and you put it in your January 30th, 2025 PowerPoint, correct?
I'm pulling up my version of the PowerPoint. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, if we could take that down, I'm going to go to the next example. We could go to Dr. Welcher.
I'm sorry, actually, can we go back to that?
Yes. With Your Honor, why do we?
Well,
I have limited. Go ahead.
so that particular diagram I did not use. If you notice, the diagram I used has different cars and doesn't have all the writing about the position of things on it.
I am going to now, Your Honor, have to take the time to go to Trooper Paul's report. Can we have the hard copy of Trooper Paul's?
Could you turn the lights on, please?
Yep. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm going to
Show Mr. Brennan.
Yes, Mr. Brennan. This is. May I approach the witness? Excuse me, Dr. Welcher. You see this first page? Do you recognize this as the cover page for the Trooper Paul report that I'm referring to?
Lisa, can you show me the signature?
You want to look at the report, sir? I'm not so sure there is a signature on the report.
Signature block right here. Yes,
Yeah.
Trooper Paul, page 16.
Can I have that?
Yes.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Now, what I want to do is to go to diagram 1, and if I could, Your Honor, republish what was just up. I'm showing you diagram 1, sir, and I'm asking you, is that the image from Trooper Paul's report that you then used to put into your January 30th slide presentation?
No. See all the writing on here with the glass cup, all the dimensions here? Here's my January 30th one. None of that stuff's here. There's different, none of this stuff is here.
Isn't it the case that this is cropped more and there's a larger picture of the same image, or not?
See this tree?
Yes.
See these trees?
Yes.
See all these measurements by the trees? All
Yes.
these? That's right here.
Okay.
Those do not show up on my image.
Let me go to a different method then to do this. You have an image Can we go?
All right, so again, this is happening outside the presence of the jury. They're trying to determine, or the judge is trying to determine, what information can be presented to that jury. Let's bring in our guest joining us this hour to discuss. Los Angeles-based criminal defense attorney Silva Megerditchian. Silva, great to see you. As always, thank you so much for joining me here on the program. And I want to get your general sense of how this cross-examination is going. And particularly, there's these questions that are being asked by the defense where they keep trying to hone in on very, very specific points. And then you have this witness who's sort of giving as good as he's getting. He seems to want to shape his answers a certain way, which causes these problems. So how is it coming across, do you think, generally to the jury?
Well, Michael, first of all, thank you always for having me, and you know how much I adore you. Look, Michael, from a defense standpoint, I wish I had him as my expert. I think he's incredibly confident. He's definitely into showing that his answers are based in what he absolutely believes, and I love that confidence. I think it's going to be very good to the jury. The cross-examination is very particular, and I think he's doing it purposely so that he's setting up his defense experts. Michael, I'll tell you, the first trial, I switched because I really did believe that the defense experts won trial one. And after I heard the defense experts, I was like, you know, I'm really, there's reasonable doubt in my mind. I think everything that's happening now, nitpicking at this report, is that he can specifically nitpick so that his defense experts will sound even better and more convincing. That's what I think his goal is right now. It is a little arduous, though, because the witness, he does not want to give an inch, but he's a scientist, right, essentially? So he absolutely believes what he believes. And I do like that he's standing up to what he believes. I think the jury will take kindly to that.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you on all those points. And I think it's coming down to a very simple point. And I wrote it down here. Yeah. It's either confirmation bias, which is where the sort of defense keeps sort of playing around, or is he just following the data? You know, so he took basically what injuries were there and then tried to fit it into what could have happened. It kind of looks like confirmation bias, but I understand the idea that he's just following what the injuries were, trying to make them fit the circumstances.
It's true, Michael. I think there's an arrogance, but you want your expert to be arrogant. You want your expert to say, look, this is what I know. I am confident. But there's a little bit of, it's like you said in the last hour with my good friend Philip Dubé, there's a little bit of a ridiculousness in the testimony, the 1 mile per hour, the 2 mile per hour. You know, the jury wants realistic information, realistic hypothetical, realistic accident reconstruction. If the defense can turn that around and make it a lot more feasible and realistic, it's going to make what this expert says less effective. So I do think the cross-examination, it is nitpicking. Look, I feel like, again, these are amazing attorneys. I just wish that we were able to see where they're going, because I know the jury's probably losing a little bit of concentration through the nitpicking.
Yeah, good stuff, Silva. All right, stand by. I do have to take a break. And when we come back, folks, we'll have more cross-examination of the Commonwealth's key expert witness. And also coming up in our next hour, we're going to have a live report from CourtTV's Matt Johnson, who was just outside that Norfolk County Superior Courthouse in Dedham, Massachusetts. More testimony in the Karen Reed murder retrial right after the break, so keep it here. Welcome back to CourtTV Live. I'm Michael Ayala. We are continuing our coverage in the Karen Reed murder retrial going on in Massachusetts. Now, this is her second time being tried for second-degree murder in the death of her Boston police officer boyfriend, John O'Keefe. Her first trial ended last July when the jury deadlocked on the charge. Now, court has ended for the day, but we're bringing you the voir dire now. Again, they're questioning what information that this expert can bring in front of this jury. Let's go back in.
I think it was from the file, satellite image from the file.
What part of the file, sir?
I actually don't know at this time.
How close is the image on diagram 1, the drone image, to the image that you can't now recall where you got it from for your slide presentation? Are they similar?
So that one has a whole bunch of measurements and ID on it, but the underlying image is very similar. It's probably the same one.
Right. Yes. Okay. Do you know of any other place you could have, let's put the presentation back up on the slide presentation. Do you know of any other location other than Trooper Paul's report that you could have got that drone image from?
No, I'm not sure I got it from the report. I recall getting it from the file.
My question is, do you know of any other source other than Trooper Paul's report that you could have gotten that drone image from?
So this image is not in that report.
It's not
Yes, it is. You asked me anything but the report. That image is not in that report.
Did you get the drone image from any file from the Massachusetts State Police?
Yes.
Okay. Did Trooper Paul work on any drone images to your knowledge with respect to 34 Fairview?
I don't know.
But you would agree that the drone images are from the Massachusetts State Police file, correct?
Give me 1 second.
Sir, let me know you've had a fair opportunity to answer that question.
Yeah, give me a second. Yes, it came in a file called cars-trp.jopal.
Okay. So it came from, and that's the report of Trooper Paul, correct?
No, these are drone images that are not in the report.
No, I'm saying what you just read. Can you repeat it again, what you just read, where it came from?
I read you a folder
Yes.
that contains a bunch of things, including the report.
Understood.
That image is not in his report.
Okay. Can you read the file name again that you just read?
The folder name
Yes.
is cars-trp.jopal.
Okay. And did you get the drone image from that file folder?
I did.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now let's go on to the May 26, 2025 PowerPoint that you created. And I'd like to go to slides 25, 26, and 27. Have you discussed with anybody today at all the source of what is depicted up on this slide?
No.
Okay, so let's now go to where did you get you see the larger chart to the left there in the, looks like mostly a rectangle. Do you see that, sir?
What slide are you on? What slide is that?
25, I believe.
Okay.
Okay, and then if we could click to 26, because it looks like it's the same. If we can go to 26 and 27, looks like it's the same one. You tell me.
It's similar.
Similar, okay.
Yeah.
In 27,
Correct.
see the same or similar one there. Okay.
These are all from Google Maps.
Well, my question is, may I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Well, let me ask you this so I don't have to keep going back and forth. Do you have access, sir, to the CARS report of Trooper Paul on your computer?
Think so? Do you remember the name of it?
I don't. We'll do it with the hard copy. Mr. Brenner, I'd like to show him this one. Thank you. So, if I could approach, Your Honor?
Yep.
So, you see what I'm pointing to right here, which is page 10 of Trooper Paul's CARS report. Do you see that?
I do. Is this the same report? It's dated 1/29/2022.
I believe so, sir. Let me just take a peek. This is, you can just compare, this is the one I have in my hand. Take it and look for any identification that gives you, right? We got the same one.
Yeah, mine's frozen.
Okay.
So that's just paper.
Okay. So we have that report. And I now am referencing page 10 of that report, and I'm looking at the chart on page 10. Is that chart on page 10?
All right, again, remember, this is happening outside the presence of the jury, and the defense is trying to find out where he got certain information and whether that information can be presented to the jury when they are in the courtroom. All right, coming up on Court TV, the objections roll in when the Commonwealth doesn't like the line of questioning that the defense tries to use on their expert witness. More testimony in the Karen Reed murder retrial when we come back. Keep it here on Court TV. All right, what we're doing now is we're watching the rest of the voir dire of Judson Welcher today after the jury was sent home in the Karen Reed murder retrial. So let's go back in for more.
Okay, and if you don't limit it to those three, who would you conclude it is in those photos?
It appeared to be Trooper Paul from other photos.
Okay, so you can tell from other photos that this is Trooper Paul in these photos, correct?
I have photos of Trooper Paul in the car. I don't know that someone else switched out. I have no reason to believe this isn't anybody but Trooper Paul.
Okay. Would you have any understanding that there's any other trooper that would be doing this type of analysis other than Trooper Paul?
Someone else took the photographs?
No, I'm talking inside the vehicle.
I'm sorry?
Inside the vehicle doing what's depicted here.
Someone is inside the vehicle taking a photograph.
What's your best conclusion as to who that is?
Trooper Paul.
Thank you. Your Honor, that is...
Okay, so next topic.
Yes,
Go right
thank
ahead.
you. And I just need to reload, if you will, with regard to that topic. If you could, if Your Honor, you can go to slide, and I think I can do this fairly quickly.
Okay.
If you can go, Mr. Woke, to slide 131 of Dr. Welcher's PowerPoint presentation. And it's now 132. I don't believe that's the right one. It's the...
One before that.
Yep. I think you're... Yeah, okay. So this is slide 131 from your slide presentation, correct, sir?
Correct.
And if you look to the far right, I'm sorry, Mr. Woke, you go to the other one. Yes, that one, and scroll down so we can see what's in green. For that depiction, that is from Dr. Scorty Bellows' autopsy report, page 3, correct? Is that where you got that from?
It's from the report. Take your word for it on page 3.
So, but it is from Dr. Scorty Bellows' autopsy report, correct?
Correct.
Now, if you could go to, if we could zoom back out and go to the multicolored image in the center, up at the top.
Just go straight to, just go straight right there.
Yep. Yep. No, I got it. Yep. Got it. Thank you. If you can go to the very top line, it says autopsy report performed by Irene Scorty Bello, MD, PhD. If you could scroll back over, date of autopsy, January 31, 2022, and then you see final diagnoses. That is all directly from the autopsy report, is it not, sir?
Yes.
And that is in your slide presentation, correct, sir? This is page 131 of your slide presentation, correct?
Correct.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay. You are all set, Doctor?
Thank you, Ron.
All right. Oh, did you have any questions, Mr. Brennan?
If it'd be helpful to the court, I have a couple quickly.
Okay.
Can I keep under 2 minutes? Dr. Welcher, you were shown a photograph of the street of Fairview Road. Did you know that didn't come from Trooper Paul? It came from the CERT report, and Trooper Paul then took it from the CERT report and put it in separately in his presentation. Did you know that?
I had no idea. I just was given it as a folder.
And the photo you were using, it didn't have the markings that Trooper Paul put on his report, did it?
It did not.
When Trooper Paul, when you used that photo, was it because you were borrowing, relying on, or using any of Trooper Paul's reports for your conclusions or any of your decisions or analysis in this case?
I did not use his report at all.
It was simply limited to the use of the photo to show a different demonstrative issue.
Correct.
And then when you saw diagram 1, again, that was different than what was used in Trooper Paul's report because it had absent in it all the writing. Isn't that fair to say?
That's fair to say.
Did you rely on Trooper Paul's analysis or conclusions in this case for your conclusions and your analysis?
Not at all.
Is that why you went and downloaded the information and looked at the car and did everything individually, separately, and uniquely from Trooper Paul?
I wanted to be independent in my analysis.
Regarding Dr. Scotabello, did you ever consider her conclusions regarding manner or cause of death as a basis for your analysis and conclusions?
Yes.
And when you considered her analysis, did you consider the conclusion of undetermined cause of death? Was that part of your analysis?
Oh, no. I was using like the skull fractures, the description of the injuries.
So you were considering the information in her autopsy report?
Correct.
How about her conclusions? Did you rely on her conclusions to do your studies or any analysis in this case as far as cause of death or manner of death?
Only I thought I said blunt force trauma and hypothermia.
Okay. Regarding her conclusions about whether this was caused by a car accident or not, did you consider that as the basis of your opinion?
No, I wouldn't take a person like that's opinion for that.
Did you ever have a conversation with Dr. Scotabello about her expertise limitations?
No, I would want a biomechanical analysis.
Was your opinion regarding the collision in this case, did it have anything to do whatsoever with Dr. Scotabello's conclusions regarding cause of death, whether it was accident, undetermined, or homicide?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, Your Honor.
All right, one question. Can we just...
All right, let's bring in our guest, still with us, Los Angeles-based criminal defense attorney, Silva Megerditchian. And Silva, you can see like Trooper Paul, who was the accident reconstructionist in the first trial, is like a hot potato for the Commonwealth. They just, every time his name is mentioned, they just want to get rid of him. The defense wants to bring him in every chance they get. And that's what they're trying to do, connect him with something that this guy did. He was the big problem the first time around, but what a difference the second trial makes. With this guy taking the place of Trooper Paul, I think it's been a major turnaround and one of the, perhaps the most important difference between the first trial and the second trial.
Hey, Michael, absolutely. Let me reiterate, the first trial for me, I mean, the cross-examination of the prosecutorial witnesses were fantastic, but what turned me into reasonable doubt were the defense experts. This is what wins and loses trials. It is the experts. It's a battle, and it's going to be who the jury actually believes is more reasonable. You know, an expert knows what he's saying or she's saying and doesn't have a dog in the fight. So again, he's coming across incredible and scholarly, and this is just out of the presence of the jury. The only thing is I want him to be spunky to both sides, the prosecution and the defense. So the defense in close doesn't say, hey, did you see how emotionally he was when we asked questions? You know, what's he so afraid of? Why did he have to be so combative with us and not with the prosecutor? It shows that he's biased. I wish he was a little bit more even in his temperament.
All right, fair enough. And I can say they spent $320,000 on him. He looks like he's worth every penny. All right, Silva, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Truly appreciate it. All right, folks, stick around. In our next hour, we're going to have a live report from Court TV's Matt Johnson on what unfolded today inside that Karen Reed murder retrial. So keep it here on Court TV, your front row seat to justice.